Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and we hope you had a great weekend. First on the docket, another death at the hands of police. Justified or not justified? Second, another sad story involving children, this time in Oklahoma. Third, a Lorry, Vallow, and Chad Daybell update. Fourth, a crazy story from a district attorney's race in Georgia. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thanks for watching. We know you have lots of things you could be doing. We're glad that you chose to watch our show. Before we get started, if you haven't already done so, we'd ask you to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you receive notifications, and as always, leave us a comment below about what you think about the topics we talk about. Now, for those of you who do not know me, I am a criminal defense attorney. I have practiced law for some 25 years, not only here in the state of Colorado, but in federal courts across the country. We try to bring you the most fact-driven, unbiased information so that you can have the truth and make the decision based upon the law and the facts. First on the docket, another death at the hands of police. This time justified or not justified? And this case involves a shooting out of Atlanta, specifically in a Wendy's parking lot. The shooting that took place in Atlanta started out as basically a simple DUI stop. It was Friday night around 10:30 p.m. when Atlanta police were called to the Wendy's fast food restaurant on University Avenue in Atlanta. A man was allegedly sleeping in his car while in the drive-through lane. Once the police arrived, they made contact with an individual by the name of Rayshard Brooks. Apparently, everything was cordial. It wasn't until after Mr. Brooks failed the roadside sobriety test as well as a portable breath test, and he was being placed into custody for driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs or a combination of both. He then pulled away from the officers when they were putting him in handcuffs. That's when a scuffle began, and it's all on video. We have video from cell phones. We have video from the officer's body-worn camera that has been released, as well as the footage from Wendy's. What it clearly shows was that Mr. Brooks tried to pull away, run away. The two officers get into a struggle with him. Mr. Brooks then apparently gets a taser from one of the police officers, gets up, and runs away. As the police officers give chase, one of the two officers who give chase shoots Mr. Brooks. The officers have been identified as Officers Devin Bronsnan and Officer Garrett Rolfe. And as we can see from the video from Wendy's, it appears that when Mr. Brooks is running away, he turns around and appears to point the taser at the officers when Officer Rolfe pulls his service revolver and fires 3 shots at Brooks. Brooks was ultimately transported to the Grady Hospital and ultimately died as a result of his injuries. Needless to say, with what has gone on in Minneapolis, as well as other incidents that recently took place in Atlanta, people were upset by the police action in this particular case. On Saturday, crowds grew protesting and demanding change in the justice system. As night fell, protesters blocked the downtown connection for more than an hour, stopping traffic across 14 lanes of interstate highway. A fire started at the Wendy's and it was left completely gutted. Police did not respond, and the fire department did not respond to put the fire out because they did not believe that it was safe for their firemen. The mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, wanted the officer fired. Additionally, the police chief, she resigned. A new police chief, Rodney Bryant, has been involved with the Atlanta Police Department since 1988, and he is the interim chief. On Sunday, the Fulton County medical examiner said that the cause of death of Mr. Bryant was 2 gunshot wounds to the back that caused organ injuries and blood loss. The manner of death has been confirmed to be a homicide, which is simply a death of one person by another. So this case has a lot of implications. We only want to talk about the legal issues and not the political ones. Obviously, here we have a situation where the entire case, once again, is on video. And you can see that the officers, as well as Mr. Bryant, were in fact quite cordial with each other throughout the process. It wasn't until the police attempted to put him in handcuffs that the confrontation or the situation escalated. Now, clearly, trying to resist and then disarming a police officer by taking his taser is a felony, along with assaulting a peace officer. Now, the law states that an officer can, in fact, shoot a fleeing felon. Now, this is much different than the Ahmaud Arbery case because obviously this involves police officers. And as you can see, when the police officers give chase, Mr. Bryant turns around and points, and it's unclear from the video whether he actually shoots the taser. The police officers believe that their life was in fact in danger. So the legal issue then becomes, were the police justified in shooting someone who's basically committed a felony charge? And we know that the shots hit Mr. Bryant in the back. The question ultimately is going to become that of proportionality. Now, I would have said 6 months ago, even 3 weeks ago, that this would have been resolved completely in favor of the police officer, given the circumstances that we know about at this particular time. However, everything that's taken place in the last 23 days since the death of George Floyd, I believe that this is going to have a much different outcome for the police officer. The question is that of proportionality. Yes, the man pointed a taser at him. Was the officer then warranted in actually shooting 3 shots at him, hitting him twice? That is going to be the ultimate issue. Like I said, 6 months ago, no problem, officer is cleared. Today, not so much. Police officers are going to have to start acting like everyday citizens, where you have to be able to explain that when you fired your pistol or any weapon, that you had no other options available. One could reasonably argue that someone, even if they took your taser, whom you believe is intoxicated, that you knew his name, you had his car, that you could probably go find him sometime in the near future, and even if he had escaped, not warranting shooting him. Let's take a quick recess. That was a lot of information to process. Now, let's talk about detailed background checks. Have you ever wanted to do a background check on somebody? Let's see a show of hands. That's what I thought. Everybody wants to do that. If you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you can type in a name, any name, and you can get the background history of just about anyone in the United States. And here's the beautiful thing about it. When you sign up for a subscription, you can have unlimited searches. There's a no-risk trial. You can search anyone anonymously, and you are searching millions of public records easily, all detailed in one easy report. That includes criminal records, bankruptcy records, court records, and home value. You can also search yourself to see if there's anything that's basically not correct. Now think about it. Whether you're going to search yourself, maybe online dating prospects, you can even search celebrities. And you can do it as many times and to people that you want. It's done anonymously, and it's a small subscription fee. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Help our sponsors help you find the information that you want. We've personally used this in our law firm. It's saved clients a lot of time and money, and it certainly saved me a lot of time as well. You will be satisfied. Next on the docket, another sad story involving children. This case involves a gentleman by the name of Dustin Dennis. He's an Oklahoma man, and he has been charged after 2 of his children were found dead. He's been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and is currently being held in the Tulsa County Jail on a bond of $750,000. Police said they responded to a call right about 6 p.m. on Saturday, according to police reports. The police reports state that they found the defendant and his now late children in the living room. According to statements made by Dustin Dennis at the scene, he said he drove to a Quick Trip convenience store with his kids around noon and returned home. He then claims that his children got out of the car, slept for about 5 hours, and woke up to see that he couldn't find them. He then allegedly claimed to have made the tragic discovery of the children in his truck. The children were on the floorboard, deceased. He then brought them into the house. Now, as we've seen lots of times, there's the version, and then we have the video to see exactly what happened. According to the police, surveillance footage from a neighbor's residence doesn't match that story. According to the video, it shows Mr. Dustin Dennis leaving his vehicle without his children, locking the truck, and entering the home. In this version of the story, he didn't take them out of the car for nearly 5 hours. Tragic result. Tough to say that someone was distracted. We're not talking about somebody running in really quick to pay for gas with a sleeping child in a car seat coming right back. 5 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about this. Children are the most defenseless people in the world. You need to protect them. You need to take care of them. And if you can't handle that responsibility, you need to give them to somebody that can. So this type of situation where we have a 3 and a 4-year-old who are now deceased never had an opportunity to experience a wonderful life. Simply another tragic and preventable situation here. Don't leave your kids in the car unattended. Next on the docket, a Lorry, Vallow, and Chad Daybell update. Now, I'm sure many of our viewers watched last week, and they're aware of the situation where they found suspected human remains at Chad Daybell's property. And obviously the police have to say that they are suspected human remains until they actually have that verification. Well, the police confirmed that the human remains found on the Daybell property were in fact that of Tylee Ryan and Joshua Vallow. Everyone wanted this case to turn out differently, but as we've said, we talk about facts. We also use our common sense in these types of situations. The big issue is still what information came about that the police basically knew what to do and where to look. And there's been some photos speculating that Lorry Vallow went out to the property and was identifying where to dig. It's very unclear from those photos, and I'm not going to say that I believe that theory, but there is what appears to be a female in a baseball cap out there on the property. We saw something similar to this, if you recall, the Patrick Frazee matter, where the detectives and district attorney took her out to the scene as it related to Kelsey Barrett and identified what she did and what she saw in that particular location. It can take place. However, as we talked about last week, Mark Means, the attorney for Lorry Vallow, filed a motion to ask for permission to see the arresting affidavit as it related to Chad Daybell. That is still under seal because the district attorney filed a motion to seal that. The court granted that motion to seal so the general public and no one else can see it other than the court and the defense attorneys for Chad Daybell. But that is going to be the key document when finally released as to what new information came about. Both Lorry Vallow and Chad Daybell should probably start planning on their defense as it relates to the actual death of both Tylee and JJ, and that desertion case may not be the only thing that Lorry Vallow has to worry about. And obviously we know Chad Daybell is still under investigation for the death of his wife, Tammy, and he needs to start worrying about these charges as well as it relates to the death of Tylee and JJ. We'll continue to follow this case. It literally gets more bizarre every day. In some good news related to this case, the school where Joshua, or as we've all knew that he was called and have come to know him as, is JJ, is holding a memorial for him this Friday, June 19th at 8:30 a.m. The school, just like many of us, were hoping for a different outcome, but they have to deal with it. And this is particularly difficult when you're dealing with children who now have to be in the circumstances where adults are explaining to them what happened to their friend. Once again, the type of thing that children shouldn't have to deal with at such a young age. Ladies and gentlemen, what is coming up? That's right, Father's Day. What do fathers like? Cool stuff. I've got some cool stuff for you to consider to purchase. It's the TC1200 Tactical Flashlight. It's a perfect gift for Father's Day. Now, if you don't want to get a gift for Father's Day, or get a gift for Father's Day and order one for yourself, everyone needs a tactical flashlight. This thing is extremely bright. If you are out walking alone at night, you break down on a drive, there's a power outage, you go camping, what are you going to want? A good, reliable flashlight. This is the flashlight that you want. It is small enough to carry anywhere, but bright enough to literally illuminate the area so it looks like you are in daylight. This is a reliable, good piece of gear. It's extremely bright, and guess what? If you go to crimetalksearch.com/1tac, you can get it for 75% off its original price. You won't be disappointed. You will be completely satisfied with this flashlight, and let's not get Dad another tie or something he doesn't need. Get him something he can actually use and want. Next on the docket, an interesting and yet kind of a weird, twisted kind of case that goes on in Georgia. There is an attorney down there. He's actually a defense attorney. His name is Mark Jones. And he was running on the primary ticket for the district attorney slot. The incumbent district attorney, Julia Slater, apparently had been criticized by Jones as well as many other people for basically not being fair and basically prosecuting petty offenses. Well, Mark Jones, along with supporters, made a video, and it had people basically in the background singing, and there was a car doing donuts in a parking lot. Well, the incumbent district attorney, thinking, how can I help my own campaign, filed charges against Mark Jones and two of his supporters, claiming that he had done some $360,000 worth of damage to the parking lot, and God forbid they didn't have a permit to do so. The district attorney, Slater, the incumbent, arrested all three, Jones and his two supporters. Jones, who is white, was released without any conditions of his bond. The two volunteers, who happened to be black, were released on bonds that topped $31,000. Undeterred by having felony charges, Jones continued on his prosecution, basically saying, this is exactly the reason why I want to be the district attorney. And guess what? He ultimately won the primary by 6 percentage points. And since the Republicans had no one to go up against the incumbent Slater, Mr. Jones is now going to be the new elected DA. Now, he still has to deal with the felony charges since, well, that's been turned over to a special prosecutor's office, and hopefully it can be resolved. I can't imagine anything more serious than perhaps a pressure washing of the parking lot to get the tire marks off of it would be required. But you never know how things go down there in Georgia, as we've seen a lot of lately. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. But before we talk about the dumb criminal contestant of the day, let's talk about our dumb criminal contestant of the week. Our winner is Keyon Lambert. He's the gentleman who made his way into Brewers Field, tried to carve his initials in the baseball field with a tractor, was unsuccessful in doing so, but still managed to cause a large amount of damage. Congratulations, Mr. Lambert. You are our winner of the Dumb Criminal Contestant of the Week. which entitles you to one Crime Talk mug. Now, all he has to do is email me at scott@scottreisch.com, and we will send Mr. Lambert his mug if he gives me his mailing address at no expense to him. However, if you want any Crime Talk mugs or any other gear, you don't have to become a contestant to do so. You simply have to hit the link below, make your order, and they will ship it to you super fast, and you will have your Crime Talk gear. And then when you get your Crime Talk mug or other gear, send it to us. We'll put it up on Facebook or any other social media that we have because we want to put it on our Crime Talk mugshot. We can't do that if you don't send us photos. Now, our dumb criminal contestant of the day comes from my own backyard here in Colorado, Mr. Scott Austin Gunderson, 65. Well, guess what? He was charged with felony menacing and false imprisonment. How could this have possibly happened? Let me tell you how. Apparently, Mr. Gunderson believed that there were a couple people walking around his neighborhood that were Antifa. You know, kind of the protester, the anti-fascist people that go around with their masks on their face, covered up, destroying, wanting complete anarchy. Well, that's what the dumb criminal contestant of the day thought that he was engaging. So what's the logical thing to do? Pick up the phone perhaps? Call the police? No. Let's put on all our tactical gear and go out completely armed and hold these two individuals basically hostage, falsely imprison them. And while you're pointing a gun at them, you've now committed the alleged offense of menacing. Once the police finally arrived, it was determined that the alleged Antifa members were anything but. They were simply door-to-door salesmen working on a Monday night after a hailstorm. Apparently, these salesmen were wearing surgical masks, blue polo shirts, and shorts. One of them was, in fact, a black man who was a football player at Colorado State University and works part-time for the company while he attends school. The other was a 27-year-old salesman, and there was no evidence that either one of them were engaging in any illegal conduct. Our dumb criminal contestant of the day always gives us an opportunity to bring you a teachable moment. That teachable moment is, even if you think something weird or suspicious is going on in your neighborhood, don't go and engage the situation on your own. Just like the Ahmed Arbery case, if you get it wrong, you could wind up in prison. In this particular case, our dumb criminal contestant committed a felony and then falsely imprisoned these two individuals because he got it wrong. If you're not in law enforcement, you have no reason to be out there making citizens arrests. And guess what? If you do get it wrong, which chances are you probably will, you're going to jail. And even if you're going to go confront somebody, as I've said this before, you will not find anyone who loves the Second Amendment more than I do, but firearms always complicate everything. If there's been no firearm, this simply could have been a simple misdemeanor false imprisonment. The firearm takes it to the felony level. Be smart, ladies and gentlemen. You're not police officers. You are not deputized to go stop crime and investigate suspicious situations. If you get it wrong, you're going to jail. And then you may be a contestant as our dumb criminal contestant of the day, and we all know you don't want that. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. As we've stated many times before, we appreciate you taking the time to watch Crime Talk. There are so many things that you could be doing. The fact that you take the time to watch us makes us extremely humble. What also makes us humble is that we are now number 49 on the podcast of all true crime podcasts in the world. And guess what? You know how many true crime podcasts there are out there? Thousands. 49 on our way to number 1. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.